evening, everyone. I'm sure you guys know my voice from Stage 32 Records. I'm Amanda Managing Director of Stage 32. Welcome today to our first panel that we're probably doing with Film USA. By a show of hands, who here is Stage 32 members? Love it. All right, well, by the end of it, all the rest of you will be as well. For those of you who don't know, Stage 32 is the largest online platform that's connecting and educating the global entertainment industry. And we have over 3,000 hours of entertainment industry education that you can watch on our channel. So I'm really thrilled today to bring you panelists that are some of our Stage 32 educators. And today we're going to be talking about the future of filmmaking. And I wanted to introduce our moderator, Kayvan. Kayvan is the producer, and he also founded the company Producers Without Borders. Has some really exciting information with a new movie that is coming out that he just did. So Kayvan's going to lead the panel today, and we're going to be passing out cards. Obviously, we're a social community, so we'd love for you guys, if you guys learned something today, make sure that you post it on Twitter. And so you can follow us on @Stage32, and then also our CEO's account is @RVWalksIntoTheBar. So share on Twitter, share on Instagram, share on TikTok, and I hope you guys enjoy the Stage 32 panels. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amanda. Wow, what a wonderful introduction. Welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing this rain? I know. Oh, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about what we're here for. It's artificial intelligence. How many of you seen that movie, 2001: Space Odyssey, by Stanley Kubrick? Of course, it's a classic, but some of our younger people over here may not know what I'm talking about. One of the most amazing things about that movie is how visual storytelling was encapsulated in such a powerful way from the very beginning scene. If anybody remembers the beginning scene of that movie, it was a prehistoric man throwing a bone up into the sky, and then next thing you flash forward to thousands of years into the future, where this spaceship in 2001 Space Odyssey begins. Yeah. So that movie in 1968 by Stanley Kubrick laid the groundwork what artificial intelligence can do when one day a machine can completely take over our lives. Now we're at the precipice right now where these things are now starting to affect our daily lives, and in our profession, in the entertainment industry, we are now seeing it become extremely, I hate that word, disruptive. That's a very, very overused term. We have these amazing panelists that are going to be explaining this in a way that's going to be hopefully very digestible for many of us, because generative pre-trained transformer, GPT, is something I don't think that a lot of people can understand, considering the fact that it first came out in November of 2022, and the latest update was March of 2023. And the fact that it's rapidly accelerating in such a way to affect our industry while we're trying to play catch up is going to be the topic of this discussion as we get into it in a very dynamic way. I'm going to jump in right away and talk to Mr. Richard Botto, who is the CEO of this wonderful organization called Stage 32 that brings together literally 1 million people online and to create this powerhouse community of people that can educate you in this industry. So RB, right off the bat, tell me, what's the impact of this going to be on writers?
Thank you, Kayvan. That's an excellent question. Well, I think you're seeing it already. I mean, what you're seeing right now with the writers' strike in America, I'm sure you're all aware of that. I'm a member of the WGA. It's been it's been a topic of conversation for a while now, but in the negotiations, the big fear isn't so much, I think people have learned, and I think that they've accepted at the top of the rankings there that, you can't stand in front of emerging technology, you get run over. So it's not that they're trying to prevent it, they're trying to figure out how to use it correctly. So there's a few things that are at play here. One is the issue of AI writing entire scripts and having writers come in and rewrite them and massage them because you don't put that human element into it. Now, why that's really disruptive in a lot of ways is that the writers aren't getting paid to begin with. They're not getting paid fairly to begin with. And now all of a sudden they're having them come in just to do a polish on an AI created script. That creates a big problem as well. there's also the issue of copyright. So this machine learning, obviously, it eats. It takes in information and it gets smarter and it gets smarter and it gets smarter. If your scripts are online or materials out there, people have detected it, and somebody might be able to take a script that exists out there and say, all right, well, it's a thriller that takes place in Milan. Let's change that to Cannes. Let's make it a female lead. Let's do this. Let's do that, and you spit it right through again. And it takes all that work and just changes it, right? That's a problem. That's a big thing that the Writers Guild is trying to figure out right now. So how do you protect the copyright of it all, right? And then you have one other issue, which is eliminating writers on set, which is happening already without AI. A lot of writers that work in TV, the way it used to work is when you worked in a room and you wrote an episode, you would be on set for that episode. Today, that doesn't happen as much anymore because the streamers don't want to pay for it, and or they break these mini rooms, which is a whole other discussion that we could talk about for 500 hours. They break these mini rooms, and by the time these scripts are ready to be produced, the writers are either off to another thing or they're just not going to bring them back to put them on set. So the younger generation of writers and the newer writers are not learning how to become showrunners, how to become producers, and everything like that. Now, how does that play into AI? Well, when you were on set, and let's say an actor and an actress, having a scene, and they're like, this isn't working. The writer would go, okay, and go off to the side, go into the trailer, whatever, and bang out a new scene. Now what they're talking about is, well, what if we just put it into the laptop there and see what it spits out? Hey, ChatGPT, give me 10 cute scenes between these two people, and it spits it out, spits it out, spits it out. So that's where the big issues lie. I mean, this is kind of a flyover. We can get much deeper into it. But these are where the big issues lie as far as the Writers Guild, the AMPTP, which is the studios, and the issue of ChatGPT and AI.
One of the really exciting things next to me is Sami of a company called CEO of Largo Films out of Switzerland, and they do pitch competitions. Right? Screenwriters come in and pitch, or filmmakers come and pitch their projects to you, and simultaneously there's AI evaluating that pitch. So, want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this pitching competition, we will have one taking place tomorrow here. Basically, the concept here, we have the producers who are using these AI tools for a certain period. They put their projects on our system to get analysis on the content, casting, and financial results. But in the pitching competition, what happens, they do their pitch in a regular format. They just talk about the content in 3 minutes. And then jury has their opinion, against a human, what they think about the project, and then boom, we show the AI results. So you see the agreements, conflicts over that altogether. And
that's going to be immensely invaluable for a person like a distributor who comes in there, because they get that real time
exactly
data.
That's the point I'm coming. So that's one of the main benefits of AI, accelerating the process. Instead of replacing the human element, really accelerating the process, which consequently you might think it can also reduce still the humans in the process, but I think it will increase the amount of quality projects, because we have many projects that become unsuccessful.
I got one thing question. What is the chance of the misinformation or disinformation of this AI being able to seep into that decision-making process? Let's pop it over to Christopher. What do you think about that? Christopher Simpson, Christopher Morrison, sorry, is the founder of Reality Plus. Tell us what you think about that.
Sure. One thing we all have to acknowledge, I think particularly with any kind of storytelling, is bias, whether it's unconscious or completely 100% conscious. Usually by someone who looks like me, without nail polish, and with a $1,000 suit, which I also don't have. So one of the concerns, obviously, with AI for people, where AI is a learning tool, it is fed, learns only what it is fed. So garbage in, garbage out, right? This is always the problem with tech, and that's something that always has to be addressed. And you can address it on the front end, you can address it on the back end. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. That's what I would have to say about it, particularly as a writer.
So, Arby, what do you think about as a writer, the storytelling process of having your story being evaluated by AI for potential, something that can be potentially distributed or not distributed based on the biases or the misinformation or disinformation of that AI.
I mean, I think it's happening at a certain level already. I mean, we all know about the Netflix algorithms and how they look at scripts and how they feed it into their own machines to see if they're marketable or if they're, compatible to the audience that they're trying to reach most. As a writer myself, I mean, I don't particularly like the human element being taken out because I do think that there is, I don't think we're there yet. I mean, it doesn't mean that we won't be there in 6 months when this is accelerating. I just don't think we're there yet. But for me, as a tool, and I think there's a lot of writers right now that agree with this, even some of the old school writers that, have been around for a really long time, they're looking at it like, look, this is an opportunity to feed some information into the program and say, I have an idea, like I said, for a thriller that takes place in the line, and I want elements of, Mr. and Mrs. Smith or whatever, and have it spit out some ideas that make you go, oh. So it's almost like a brainstorming tool. So there are a lot of writers that are embracing it. It just comes down to how are the studios going to use it? And are the studios going to try to cut the writers out? And like I said earlier, what's going to happen with copyrights, which is the really, really big one. I mean, that's the really, really big one. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Where that goes. But to me, I don't like removing the human element of it. Right
Sami,
now.
what do you think about that? I want to get more. Since you're in the forefront of hearing a lot of these pitches, and as a human listening to some of these pitches, do you sometimes disagree with what the AI's decision is? Just on a personal note.
I can disagree time to time, emotionally and sometimes with experience as well. But here, I can give a bit statistics because we work with a lot with a lot of producers and they analyze their product and we see quite often disagreements. We have many different tools. For example, AI is predicting the genre distribution of a content. We see like 80-90% agreements with the producers. But once we come to age suitability and PA rating, AI is predicting something, and then we check out what producers are thinking about that. There's almost 50% disagreement. Why? We go a bit deep for the reason because we see the producers, they want their product to be labeled PG-13, PG, much wider at the start because they increase their chance to get the deals, but that's not the reality. So once we go with the AI, we see the AI distribution is much more agreeing what's happening in the reality. And financial part is the most emotional part. For example, we predict what will be the potential audience size for the film.
Well, also, it can also generate, let's say, what would be the budget of this film? You can come up with an idea, right? And then, AI can say, well, the real budget should be this. And of course, the human is padding its versions, and you can have multiple, and then what happens?
Absolutely.
That's kind of stuff I'm curious about.
Which is once you go to AI is a black box, is predicting something, but there's a lot of parameters going into that. So one thing we check in a project that is impacting the most financial success is budgets, and then followed by P&A. And then in many cases, producers are selecting the wrong budgets, which is a very important decision. Of course, there's experience part as well, but once we look at AI's learning and its result is coming over the thousands of movies and their interaction with all other elements, story, actor, cast, P&A distributors. So it's impossible for a human to think to that level, even if you become very experienced.
What this is telling me, this is going to create a lot of mental health issues down the line because the stress level of humans, knowing that at some point machines are going to be taking over. I mean, this is something that's is quite on the forefront of many people's minds, especially if you're on the lower level in the entertainment business, right? Because you're the person who's most likely going to be replaced by these things because it's making it more efficient. You want to add something on that, Chris?
Yeah, please. I mean, one of the reasons that people that look like a lot of us on this panel are panicking is because we also need to acknowledge the socio-economic aspects of this, right? Is that we finally have an automation that's coming for middle-class white people's jobs, and that's why everyone's freaking out. All right, sorry. I sort of censored that, right? So please also put that lens on and strain it through that, right? This is what's happening. It's been happening for years, right? In terms of, it's not been happening for years, it's been happening for all human history. Automation comes, but it's usually coming for the underclass to be replaced, to turn them into cogs, right? And this is not bad. I'm using some very pejorative sounding language like cogs. All right, it's just part of the freak out, it feels like to me, is because it's a certain class of people that are starting to feel something breathing down their neck that they usually don't feel, okay? Which are, and let's be honest, the entry-level jobs for the entertainment business don't go to the underclass of most cultures. I'm seeing a lot of blank stares. I hope somebody in the room agrees with me, but you never know. But that's fine. So I do want to point that out. I think that's part of this conversation.
Okay, so I don't want to sit there and completely dominate this in the entire discussion. Let's throw it out there and see if we have any questions right now from somebody. Anybody out there regarding what we've talked about so far, so we can kind of get this thing on it. Go ahead.
Hi.
You want to let me grab a mic?
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Krista.
Thank you. I'm a writer, actor. This is definitely terrifying, but they can't take away live performance, right? Question.
That's
about. Oh, yeah. Oh,
I can, and I've already have.
We went there. Okay, that's true too. Yes. Okay, so if I've got projects that have won awards, like screenplay awards, and they're on cover flyer, are you saying that can just be taken? It's like, do I delete my cover fly profile and get rid of my award?
Well, I mean, other reasons. Look, we don't want to strike terror here to say that, your script's going to be taken away and all that, right? This will get figured out. There will be ramifications with the copyright situation with the WGA and with AMPTP. That will get done. I think that the reason they kicked it down the road is because, and they kicked the AI down the road, is because they don't really know what they have yet. And what they said was, well, why don't we just talk about it again in 3 years when the next thing is up? And the WGA said, no, fuck that, right? Now, SAG has the same issue. The DGA has the same issue. The DGA is negotiating right now. SAG is negotiating in a few weeks. Both of those deals are up on June 30th. So I assure you that by June 30th, we're going to have a really good feel on what this is going to be, or what it's going to start to look like, especially if the DGA and SAG decide to strike too, which they very well might this time. I mean, they've been kind of wimpy in the past, but they may this time, because everybody's interests are aligned. The writers have more things that we're going after and more problems that we have, right? But a lot of the residuals and the AI stuff is the same. So
Okay,
don't panic.
I want to jump in right now because this thing is going to, at the rate it's going at right now, it's my understanding, guys, please jump in and correct me because you guys are the techies. It's my understanding by November of this year, it'll be 1,400 times smarter than the Marche version. So when that happens, and the way it's accelerating, and it's because it's feeding on itself constantly, right? You're trying to stop a locomotive from actually, achieving the things that a lot of people did not have the ability to do it before. For example, if I'm a struggling writer and I'm like, man, I need to come up with some new ideas. I'd like to do a Gone with the Wind version of this, but with an all Indian cast, because I know there's 1.4 billion Indians out there, and I want it to be with this. And all of a sudden, it cranks it out. Or let's say it's in a country that doesn't recognize copyright law, and I want it to be more local for that language and that culture. What about that? How is it going to affect?
If I can jump in here,
Please, I want you to.
You're making it sound like any human in here can just open up ChatGPT and put in content. You can't do that to feed it to make it understand stuff. I mean, you could technically, I suppose, if you really want to put in the prompt, somehow copy and paste the entirety of Gone with the Wind into it and then be like, do something similar. I don't think that's a good use of anyone's time, or anyone. I don't know anyone.
But what I'm saying to you is, by in the next 6 months, all these things are generating ideas. They're generating things where.
I also want to back up. These aren't things. These are people. ChatGPT isn't running around. You can't go kick it in the balls or anything, right? It's humans, so it's companies. So this is what I mean by sort of panic. We're using panic language here. It's a thing, right? It's not a thing. It's humans. Like this gentleman here runs an AI company. I work in high-tech storytelling. We're people, right? It's not a thing that's sort of out there hoovering up random stuff. It's not. And this is also why opening up with 2001 HAL being like, the robots are not coming for us yet. Okay, from my opinion. Okay?
They're not, but Sam Altman came in front of Congress yesterday in the Senate and said, hey, this thing needs to be regulated. And the guy who stepped back and
regulation's an entirely different discussion than what we're talking about here, right?
But the thing is, the regulation, the discussion came about
Yeah.
because of the fear, because of the fact that
Oh, sure.
you know, the fear is real. You can't stop.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. The fear is real. My point is, and I'm in London. I'm on an AI not a regulatory panel, but a discovery panel about AI, which is probably why I'm sitting here, because I'm really just a writer, a storyteller. I swear to God, I'm 21st century illiterate. I can't code in any language. But we have to. The fear is real. That's okay. That's absolutely real. But we also have to understand that it doesn't immediately equal the robots are coming for us, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I'm trying to temper things a little bit.
No.
And if I can, let me if I can boil it down to like something that everyone in this room can do, is in terms of implementing this, particularly as creatives, please focus on your editing skills. This is a tool that's coming through your tool. It's going to be part of your toolbox, and you have to be able to edit on a literary level, and you have to be able to edit on a visual level. That's a skill set that you probably attained somewhat somewhere. And my suggestion is, if you want to use this tool and you want to integrate with it and be less afraid of it, that's the skill set you need to focus on. I'm not an expert at it. I'm not fantastic at it yet, but that's where you can enter into this thing without only worried about that it's coming for us.
Sami?
Stop talking.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. Yeah, I think great points. So one thing, I don't know if you heard this term, prompt engineering. So you'll be hearing this more and more often. I think exactly your point. I mean, to get a really great GPT script, you need to be very well script writer. So it's not a random person just go and ask your GPT to write a good script and he cannot get a great script out of that. He will get something, but it will be quite average. So you need to have a really great skills of the prompt engineering. That means what you ask to GPT and what details you are giving to that. Without giving these details, because there's many ways of developing a script and it can go any direction, and the direction it will go in general will be average. And average won't be the most successful one. So writing a good prompt really requires good amount of skills and a good expertise in that specific field. If you really want to get a great script from GPT, you have to be really great and with script writing and write these prompts correctly.
Let me victim here really quick. I could not agree with these guys more. I think the fear is so overblown, and I think as it relates to this business, I think it's overblown right now because it will get figured out and it will get regulated in some way. It absolutely will. Fear of AI coming for other jobs and things like that outside of the entertainment business, I think the fear is real. But I think with this, there is an element, look, Netflix tried, again, they have their own internal algorithms and things. You saw some of the movies that they were putting out there, a lot of paint by numbers stuff and a lot of, it was just very, very safe to cash, okay? And a lot of people were turned off by that. A lot of what ChatGPT throws out has that kind of feel to it as well at this point as well, right? So I would look at it more like this is going to be, per se, it's going to be a tool in your toolbox, and it should be. And it should be an effective one, and one that allows you to really get through writer's block, get through, come up with ideas, multiple ideas, be able to write outlines, which a lot of screenwriters have a hard time doing. I know I do. You know what I mean? But it gives you an opportunity to work. It's almost like having a writing partner in a way. It's just, what are they going to do with it? How are they going to regulate it, right? The studios want to shut the writers out. That's not going to happen. They're going to have to bend at some point, and then I think everybody's going to look at it as advancing technology, and they're going to go, holy shit, what a tool that is.
I mean, and that's the other thing about people in this room. If you are a politician, if you have that bent, there's a lot of ways to get involved. I'm an idiot. I can't code. I'm talking to the British government.
Like these being shared just on a traditional basis, now we have possible AI snoops. And so I'm a novelist with screenplay and a short film, so all of this is scary. But I'm going to take it to a smaller level. If we use this tool for, say, storyboarding, is there a risk factor there that your real creative phase, when you're working through the creative ideas, is somehow now discoverable or by using AI tools?
I see. So you're worried about putting in information into an AI bot, so you're worried about putting information into an AI bot that then somehow feeds back to the bot itself. Is that what you're saying? and it becomes part of that the AI
Yes.
learning tool. Is that right?
Yes.
I don't know.
I'm
It's
just
above my
sort of
pay grade.
I'm
These
just-
guys will
I'm
know.
more worried about stolen,
I can
there's
answer.
stolen IP in general, so I'm worried about it even on the low side.
I can answer that because we have exactly a storyboard tool, a generative AI tool that generates
I broke it. All right.
storyboards. So for inference level, that means once you use the tool, typically you don't use that data to retrain because that's very costly. So you make your training in advance. You can do this. There's a loop models that gets the user data to train as well, but they need to get the permissions for that. But it's traditionally in the models, you train the model in the past data, and then you have an inference model. So once you add your creative idea, there's no learning. This is the inference that you get the results. But again, I'm sure that there are companies that might be doing this secretly. So one thing actually for the GPT, so not Midjourney, I don't know if you're using Midjourney. So Midjourney, they don't use, what I know, they don't use your creative information, but they use the reactions of the people. For example, you have prompts, you have a results. If there's many people likes that it's evaluation, there's a good connection, it puts this back to the training system.
I'm seeing some glazed eyes here. How many people have actually gone and did some prompting? Okay, so not bad. So what my friend is talking about here is usually what you're going to do, sometimes what you're going to do is you're going to generate one prompt and it's going to spit out a thing, and then you're going to adjust your prompt. Now, sometimes you can take the exact thing and pump it back in, but what he's saying is it's not, at least ethically, the ethical companies, it's not going back. If you're worried about the unethical companies,
Ethical and also cost reasons. I can tell.
yeah, and the only answer to that is just welcome to capitalism,
Yeah,
right?
because if you do that actually, because every time you need to retrain a very big model, which is very costly. That's not easy. So, but we don't know the internal process of all companies. Ethically, they shouldn't do as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christopher.
Microphone guy.
So, I wanted to add a comment because I work in the video game industry. I don't work in the film industry. And maybe this is a little bit hopeful because I know on the game side, we have been using procedural AI for many, many years. It's how you get NPCs, your non-player characters, you give them intelligence. So, AI has been AI programmers are very common in the game industry, but it's all been for procedural AI. And I think maybe just because games are so much closer to the tech, because we are an outcropping of the tech industry more than the creative film side. Even though there's many, many parallels, we write scripts, we create characters, we do all that as well. But because we're so wedded to the technology, I think there's been, at least from my perception, a greater openness to this. Because procedural AI has already been long accepted in the industry. Generative AI has caused some panic, a little bit, I would say more among artists than writers. But I think for most people in the game industry, they see it again as a partnership tool. Like you were saying, they see it as a tool to enable the creativity they've already been doing. So we're not really quite seeing the same level of panic happening in the game industry. And I think it's, again, because we're a bit closer to the tech and we kind of live and breathe every day.
I write for video games as well, and I've experienced this directly. Is for sure that, the other elephant that may be in the room between video games and the film industry is if you guys don't understand that the video game industry monetarily has been kicking the ass of movies and the music business put together, and some people are also now rolling in the sports community as entertainment for the last decade. Catch up. Please, and this is 100% part of it. There are video games now out also that use generative AI that create the environments as you play the game. Pine is a fantastic game. Sorry, I'm going to get real specific for 2 seconds. I promise I'll pull it back out. Pine is this amazing game where you play it and it generates the world as you play. Now again, for us, some of us normcore people who don't code, that seems like, okay, whatever. Doesn't it do it all the time? No. Games don't do that. Games have a world that you go into. The idea that the world is generated new every time you play it as you move through it, and that's all due to AI. And that's going to help your immersion, which we could also talk about, but we seem to have excised the XR part of this panel, but whatever.
Yeah, actually, I'm also seeing it incorporated in storylines in shows now. For example, in Barry, that HBO show, where,
You
you
see
know,
the last episode?
yeah,
There's no spoilers.
I don't want to spoil it, but it's about how you were talking about earlier, how the algorithms that these companies use to have a show that's successful keep going, and all of a sudden it stops. Like, why did it stop? Because it didn't hit the target audience the way they wanted it to hit their.
I don't know. I mean, you look at the difference between like an HBO and a Netflix, right? Netflix is churning out a ridiculous amount of content. HBO is more in the prestige game, right? I don't think HBO really wanted Succession to end after 4 seasons, and this season is actually its highest rated ever, right? And so is Barry. So, you know, sometimes they do leave it up to the creator. The creator says there's not enough runway to do anymore. We've run out of runway, and let's end it. So I don't know about that, but I would be concerned about not so much what we're talking about right now, more the algorithm on their side when it comes to the places like Netflix and because so much, they have to churn out so much content to keep that churn from becoming too big, right? And they all, by the way, have to answer to the street. They're all answering to the street, every single one of them. So I don't know, and I just wanted to really quick. What's your name?
Donna, did you say that?
Donna. Okay, so if I said, I want you to think about it more this way, then I think, because I do think there is this panic, right? If you have a published book and it's out there in the public, it's out in the ether, right? And somebody says, I want to write me 3 opening chapters in the vein of Donna's writing. That's going to happen. If you have storyboards out there, you know what it would take for somebody to be able to kind of get to, or your script, like, you know what I mean? I don't know what you're writing or whatever. I think you would have more, quite frankly, that's why we have copyright protection. That's why the Writers Guild has their, not theirs isn't as powerful as obviously the Library of Congress, but you protect your work, and that's why it's there. There will be a layer of protection with this. It will happen. It has to happen. In the internet, when we were in the early days of the internet, everybody was panicked about putting their, never pay online. I've never put my credit cards on. We're all sitting here all freaking day doing this with our phones, with our credit cards, right? Yeah, the cards get stolen. Are the data breaches? Of course there are. But is it 99.999% protected? Yeah, of course it is. Because that's what where the technology got to. That will happen with this, I guarantee it.
Again, not to harp on this, but it's capitalism, right? Right. The whole point. I mean, the reason you feel comfortable paying stuff is because we made Elon Musk because of that exact problem, because of that exact fear. There's money to be made to make ChatGPT. Sorry, I didn't mean to name it. Whatever. Generative AI safe and a tool that is used by industry all up and down the road, which it already is, by the way, being used constantly. So, yeah, just take a breath. It's going to be okay. In terms of copyright, it's a huge issue. I 100% agree with the WGA. Not a member. Was a satellite caucus member for the video games until they closed it, but whatever. That's fine. I'm not mad at them. I understand why they did it. Totally agree with that. And because in that collective environment, when you're dealing with that kind of power, you do need to kick it in the butt once in a while to remind it that that dialogue has to happen. But on the ground level, for us as artists, I do exactly the same thing. It's the price for entry on the internet that your identity can get stolen. We're all paranoid about it, those of us that have had it happen. It sucks, but you have to move on with your life if you're gonna stay there. As an artist now, this is part of it, in terms of like, oh, my craft's gonna get stolen and maybe get put into a thing. Cool. I don't know how to say. For me, it's the price of entry. It's also not even there yet, as he just said.
I got a question for each one of you. Top 3 uses of this artificial intelligence in your life right now. What would it be?
I mean, I played around with it. I took some story ideas and just threw it in to see what would come out. I actually put in, first time I played with it, I actually put in, kicked me out a synopsis for a Cheech and Chong meets Friday the 13th movie. It's funny as fuck. It was funny as fuck. I mean, I was like, this is unbelievable, right? But I wanted to see what we could do. So I took an idea that I had that I've been brewing for a long time, and just said, okay, in this scenario, with these 2 people, and I didn't get too deep with it, but just to see what it spit out. And it was interesting. It made me think. It made me go, okay, that's an idea I didn't think of. That's really interesting.
Well, the reason I'm asking the question because you're talking about how useful it could be in a non-threatening way.
Well, because that's it, right? Look, I'm in the WGA. I don't like what's going on. I don't like the way the studio's handling it. I think they did a really shitty job in the first round of negotiations. They basically ignored this topic completely. It's in their best interest to ignore it completely, but they can't ignore it forever, right? So from that perspective, yes, I'm not a big fan of what's happening right now. But as somebody that says, like what I opened with, that if you try to stand in the way of emerging technology, you're going to get run over. And the quicker that you embrace it and look at it as a meaningful tool, the more effective you're going to be. And the more that you understand it, because I understand what you're thinking, like, oh my God, it's out there, so they can just get it. But that's not the way it works. It's just not the way it works. They're not, they would have an easier time putting your name into Google and seeing wherever you have your scripts listed online. But again, price of entry, right? You want your scripts online. You want them there, but you got to protect the work first, right? How many scripts really get stolen in Hollywood? How many lawsuits have you really seen through the years? There's been a couple of high-level ones. You want to know why you don't see a lot of them? Because it's cheaper to pay you for the script than to fight a lawsuit against you. And it's also reputation damaging to the company. So they don't want that either. They don't want to be in the press going like, oh, I'm being accused of stealing people's screenplays. So just think about it from that perspective. The dust will settle. It's in the air, it'll settle. And it will be regulated, and I love what Chris said. It will be commerce, okay? It will be, people are gonna have their reputations on the line because there's gonna be more and more of these. And their reputation, just like we were talking about like data breaches, like Chris said, if it happens to you, you still have to be in there, but you're also trusting that the companies that are protecting you are getting better at it every day because it's in their interest to. They're running a business.
Okay, and the other two?
Two more.
That only counts as one?
No, because I love it, because
I feel like there was three in one answer. No.
Well, I mean, you're very eloquent in describing one thing, so I'm thinking that if you just used it for.
I mean, I use it. I write for Fast Company. I write I'm on the Fast Company board. I write articles. I'll throw in ideas for articles and just say, I've never. I'll be honest with you. When it spits it out, it's not human. It's not, there's some great ideas, but you gotta go in and on the side. But just for ideas, you know what I mean? And the thing that's cool about it is it's also great for like research. So like if I'm writing an article about mental health, for example, sure I can go to Google and say, tell me about whatever. But I was doing an article on mental health and I put something in like, tell me since COVID, the amount of people, I asked depression statistics. Right. And it brought up a ton of things that I would have never known about. And I just said, wow, that's really great information for the article. Got the credited source in the article. But I would have never, it wouldn't, when I put the same question into Google, if I put the same question into Google, that didn't show up. So there are usages for it. That's two. I'll think of the third one.
That's good, I like it.
So I'm really an indie creator. I've been 25 plus year independent content creator. The idea that I, as an independent individual, comes up with an IP or a story, whatever that shape that takes, and I can now go to someplace like Midjourney, if you're not familiar, it's a little bit more of a visual-based AI generative tool, and create a lookbook or create early concept work. It's crazy to me, and it's so useful because if you're an indie creator, you're no longer just an indie creator. You've got to be a marketer, and you've got to be a producer, and you've got to be all these things. And half the time now they want you to do concept art as well, right? You've got to come in with so much crap. Now you can hire somebody, or you can generate some early work that you can then go find other people to work on, right? To me, that is insane, right? That saves so much time, it saves so much money. Gets me thinking creatively in a different way. If you're in a visual medium, it gets you into the visual part of things besides the script as well. And then what he said about script stuff. Please go back to, I'm going to quote a smart woman, we're also missing women up here right now, by the name of Anne Bogart, if you know who she is that she tells a great story early in her career. She got on the set of Miami Vice and was working in the production office. And Miami Vice, by the middle of the first season, hired one producer who had one job, was to walk around all of the creative sets, creative departments, and they only said two things. One, that's Vice, or two, that's not Vice. That was their entire job. And Bogart is a generative theater practitioner, as a director. She's got all the awards you can imagine as a director. She does not claim the title of director. She says she's an editor. This is going back to the editing thing, okay? This is a tool that allows you to buff. You want 2 or 3, it will buff those skills for you. Because as RB said, it's not gonna come out perfect. You're gonna have to pick. You're gonna have to say, not Vice, that's Vice, right? Throughout your work. Let's get to
That's okay. It's all right. Just to get you to
get it going.
Right, like I can tell you what
You
mine.
want 3.
You can give me 3, give me 2, just give me something because I'm trying to think about other things, uses for myself. And for me, it's a business plan. Like if I need a business
Absolutely,
plan,
yeah.
somebody's like, okay, well, where's that idea? I need to see a business plan. I can tell the basics to into the prompt, and it kicks it out. And wait, 70% of what I want is in that prompt, is in that response, and it saves me so much time.
Yeah.
There's so many other uses too. Let's say I have a song that I really like in my head, or there's a piece of poetry. I kind of want to talk. I want to be able to express myself, but I don't have the eloquence or I don't have the intelligence to do so. And that's where this artificial intelligence and these AI tools come in super handy.
Yeah, absolutely. Then in that manner, actually, can you give examples from 3 words because I find really fascinating. Coding. I mean, I do most of management at this moment. I don't have too much time to coding, although I have technical background. But now I see I can have that time because I just give a prompt, the right prompt, I get my code in like a few minutes. That will take a whole day. So the second thing, marketing. So I don't know if you tried to develop marketing.
Websites. I mean,
Yeah, marketing website. But there's an important detail over there. I actually have a direct A/B testing for marketing. So we got ChatGPT to generate like a really marketing campaign, and then we had 3 other campaigns that was manually written. So all of manually written ones perform better than ChatGPT. That's the part I am talking about, the average. So GPT is creating something for you that can be improved a lot by putting the right prompts. But at the same time, you need to do still after work to make it. You really need to make this human touch, I think, to make it work.
Let's throw it out there for questions because I see some restless eyes out there. Any questions you want to throw out? Yes, sir. Right here in front.
Many years ago, I was playing with involved with a game. It's an oriental game which is called Go in Japan, which is a strategic game. And at that time, nobody believed that there would be made a program strong enough to beat a human.
Sounds sweet.
Yeah, which happened. But not only that the program beat a human, now they are playing moves that nobody think about it, and they are better than human moves. So how do you think this will not happen in the creative process, that screenwriter, i.e., can be better than a human?
I mean, my first response to I lived, I'm a proud Gen Xer, so I lived through the blue thought panic era of chess. So I'm familiar with it. It happened in Go more recently. For those who don't matter, Go is like 10,000 times more complicated than chess. It's a closed system. It's a 100% closed system. Chess and Go are a closed system. Screenwriting is only a closed system if you're an idiot, right? If you are a patternistic moron going for the average all time. Sorry, that was really pejorative, but those are actually my feelings, right? Does that make sense? Screenwriting is a creative industry that is endlessly creative, no matter what you do. Now, if you are going to slice down the middle and you're like, I really only want to do studio stuff that looks like this, you're starting to get more of a closed system, but it's not anywhere near as closed as chess or Go. This also goes to the idea of robots are coming for us. They can't program an ant right now, literally, like an ant's intelligence, like in a robotic system. I know you've seen all the ones online. The robots are dancing! Oh my God, they're doing somersaults, they're coming for us. Like them. They've been programmed to do that, and that took literally decades of work. In terms of them having creativity and actually generating the next idea, we're nowhere there, I promise. Now, again, it can imitate, and that's what all of these things are doing. We're feeding garbage in, garbage out, or brilliance in, brilliance out, but it's a closed that it has to, we're talking about something that's much more wide and open from my point of view. But also, maybe we'll get there, and then, oh well, I don't know what else to tell you.
God, did you?
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, again, this is why, we gotta take this step by step, right? We gotta see what the regulations should be. We keep saying this, but it is true, right? We gotta figure out how we tackle it right now first, before we can worry about all the rest of that, right? Will there ever be a time where that human element which is lacking so badly right now when you get a prompt, or when you put a prompt in?
So this brings up something for me. What would you not like it to do?
Well, I mean, I don't know. And again, you're standing in front of a runaway train, right? I mean, it's going to keep learning. You're gonna have more tools. You asked me, I actually came up with my third one. We've used it for things so like logos, and we've used it for things like various design things for Stage 32. Look, I think those are amazing tools, and it saves an enormous amount of time. And to be able to sit there and say, okay, this is an opportunity for me to get my whole day back because I can just do this in 5 minutes. That's really attractive, right? But again, as a writer, why not embrace it? Like, why not look at it as, like I said, I look at it almost like a writing partner. I don't write with a partner, but I don't also brainstorm with a partner. But I can kind of brainstorm with the program and just try to come up with ideas. What's different? What's new? What haven't we seen before? That kind of thing. So I mean, look, I get where you're coming from, and I mean, it is machines are coming for us and all. I mean, I get it, but I think everybody needs to take a breath and let's see what the next month and a half brings with all the creativity. No, with the writer's strike and everything. You know what I'm saying? Let's see where we land with regulation and how the actors. Look, there was a thing today or yesterday, last 2 days. Tom Hanks, I don't know if you guys saw the article. Tom Hanks basically said that he's fully expecting to be in films 30 or 40 years after he's dead, and that he is talking with his agent, and the agents are talking to the lawyers, and everybody's trying to protect their image because they feel if they don't take control of it now and pass it on to their kids, that they're just going to do it anyway, right? So again, here's one of your most beloved actors, in the last 30 years saying, you can't get out of the way of this. Like, I mean, you gotta get out of the way of it, really. I mean, you gotta embrace it, right? And to me, that signals that all of Hollywood and all the people who are doing storytelling, they know it's coming. It's just a matter of how do you handle it, right? They could come back tomorrow and say, well, you don't have the right to your image after you're dead. Well, fuck that. I get my agent, I get my lawyer, and we figure it out. And then there'll be probably legal precedent at some point, and then that's going to become the rule of the law. And then we move on, right? But it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Also, I've been working out of Europe since 2014. They are 20 times more paranoid than America is. So, I mean, if you've ever been on, and when you all are on you're in Europe, if you're American, you know that little thing that pops up every single website you go to? That's the EU being paranoid. Which is, again, using a pejorative, I'm all for it, it's fine. So, just also understand that this isn't, people are concerned, I promise you. I just don't want indie creatives spending their precious nightmare time worried about fucking AI. Have a good nightmare so you can wake up and film that shit, right? Like, that's what you should be worried about. Don't make another goddamn robots are coming for us movie. Not that nightmare. Please have another nightmare about ants and your aunt, okay? Right there. Steal that.
Well, I think one thing I can add for many people in the creative side, AI is a black box. And you don't know how it works. That's actually a scary part as well. So that's one thing I really recommend for people on the creative side to go and understand a bit how it works, which is not too complex. Actually, the concept is very similar. The way human brain learns that the neurons are connected in human brain and they are learning as we see the stuff. The black box in AI is very similar. So actually, thanks to Stage 32, in that manner as well, we have been a few trainings over that to show actually what is inside the black box, both for predictive AI and generative AI. The difference is crazy for people in creative side before and after that, because you feel much more confident. You understand actually how it makes this shit, right? So that's that produces also part of this scale feeling. So. Yeah.
All right. So there's one of the things that I wanted to also touch upon is the area of financing. if you guys could elaborate how this could be useful in trying to craft something that would be.
Yeah.
Because you're very creative and you want to find financing for your film, how do you think this could help you achieve that? These tools.
I can just continue on that. Actually, that's something we do a lot, and we see that's one of the biggest benefits of AI for financing, because normally, you need to get like a strong prediction at early stage for your film to convince yourself, and also to convince investors, the distributors, studios, to get them going. I think one of the strongest benefits of AI to use it at that stage, because you can get much more confident predictions than standard tools. It's still not 100% accurate, it still makes mistakes, but its accuracy way better than the traditional methods. I can give some statistics, like green lighting accuracy for independent production is very low, it goes 30-40%. Once it comes to studio levels, it is changing from 60% to 75% that we find Disney as most successful, around 75%. AI can go to 80% in our measurements. So huge improvement for independent productions, and still some improvement also for studios.
Not to repeat myself, anybody a writer in here? All right, not too many of you, but so I'll speak to you three for a second. Going back to what I said, are you as angry as I am that that you're expected to be a fucking graphic artist as well now? Have you noticed that problem? This solves that problem without having to go to Fiverr. Fiverr's brilliant, by the way. So is Stage 32, by the way. I'll get the plug in as well. Anyway, I am a member, and I am a member of the writers' room. I'm probably a member of the writers' room. This solves that problem for you. This helps you. I promise it will help you if you start dealing with it and sort of have to get over that whole graphic artist nonsense. And also, like I said, early concept art, early lookbook, to sell your idea to a producer. I don't know why I'm doing this. Sell all your ideas to Rich. Sell all your ideas to Rich. Okay, whatever. Whomever, crew coming on board, right? It can help you do all of that without having to now go back to school to learn freaking graphic design. Please.
It's just a quick question, because I did a Largo project very early on, and the casting aspect had me a bit freaked out in the sense that it would always go with known entities. How can we create a breakout new actor if it can only rely on people we already know, which is already a problem, but it just seems so much worse that basically, the five faces we knew were going to make more money for the film, and discovering someone new and like, yeah, okay.
Good question.
Yeah, we have done actually quite a bit of statistical research to see how if AI is very biased for the casting. So I don't remember exact numbers. We have already one AFM session just on that to see how much AI proposing creates the variety of the actors, and we compared it with the industry standard. So how much an actor is getting role in the past data, and then how much AI is proposing. We saw the AI diverse much more than.
Tell it to find someone unknown? Or does that
Yes,
break
of
the
course.
routine, yeah?
But so that's the thing. So specific to our system, normally once you put your budget, AI looks first at the content match, and it also finds the actors that will fit that budget. Yeah. I mean, if you remove the budget, then you remove this impact. So because completely independent, we have, for example, Creative Lab tool that you go completely independent and budget. But I just want to add, I think one important point is the diversity part, because you can do a lot with AI. You can make it much worse or much information of the actors. If you do that, it will repeat exact bias we have today. But there's
what's called moderation endpoint or something like that, where the AI is told is given a limitation that don't go past this thing. Is that what you're
exactly? That's very sensitive part that you have full control as a human. For example, we
don't take on sexist or anything.
Yeah, I mean, because you have to give the data to AI. So, for example, we don't give ethnicity information, so it doesn't see any ethnicity information of that actor. It says everything else, age, country, the previous content, but it doesn't see the ethnicity. So this way, it learns actually ethnicity independent. And one statistic we saw, our system proposed other actors 2 times more than what is happening in the industry. It's because that we didn't give the ethnicity. It has problems as well, by the way, because then you might have really, for example, you have a black actor, AI might be proposing a white actor because it doesn't have ethnicity.
So what I'm seeing from this discussion and how you guys are educators, and thank you so much for joining, is the fact that it's giving us a starting point, not just a starting point, but an accelerated ability to take on an idea, a concept, and use these tools that are out there, and then the human can come in there and manipulate it and fix it and advance it faster. So it's really, the discussion is about the efficiency rather than the fear. So we should embrace the efficiency rather than the fear. Go ahead.
And calm me down.
Yay! We did it!
So to address the two wonderful possible uses that you both have just mentioned, how would I, if I were wanting to figure out a budget or a pitch for my film, program it? Is there because I'm not versed on, and it seems like the quality of the information is the quality of how you ask a question. How do you program it to give you your stats or information financially for a film as well as graphic arts? Because I've been hiring a lot of graphic artists, they do beautiful work, they're not cheap, but I got great pitches.
Also, another area, mood boards.
Yeah, 100%.
I
I do want to probably excise the word programming from that sentence if we can, just because you don't want to. I think everybody here, I assume in this room, thinks programming means coding, right? It's not coding. Again, you're not cracking open the AI and being like, I'm in its brain, I'm winning. No, it's prompt engineering is the sort of, yes, I hate to spread jargon, but it's really popular jargon. Prompt engineering is what you're thinking, and it's just exactly what it sounds like. Going back to your English school, sorry, some of you studied English in America, which is bias of me, but it's like a prompt. It's literally a writing prompt. You have to put in information, and I'm going to pass the mic this way. We will tell you much more details about that.
Yeah, I mean, the prompt is very important. This is the generative part, but I think for once it comes to like a pitch deck, there's a lot of predictive parts. So like financial forecasts, and you cannot go and ask to GPT that predict how much my film will make. It's not that. So that requires a lot of secondary learning, which that's the thing that.
But that's interesting because humans make that mistake all the time. If you think about it, I mean, the whole thing about the concept of you go to a sales agent who may give you rosy predictions, because by the time something comes out into the real world, the baby's born and it's actually shown, you don't know how it's going to be received, right? And so these projections are based on previous data that they've had before, with similar concepts, with similar casts, with similar storylines, with the similar, writer, director, all that stuff. But there's no certainty in any of this. And I think that's everybody's seeking certainty in an uncertain world where the humans are now relying on this information to guide them to that certainty.
I think that's the cool part. So even with best AI, we will never get like 100% certainty in the creative industry. And that leaves a lot of space for humans. But there are other fields, for example, autonomous driving. That will come to like close to 100% certainty. There won't be much space over there. But once it comes to exactly closed system, that's
driving is a closed system.
Yeah.
That's why the truckers should literally be afraid. They should be.
In creative industry, I don't think you will ever come to like 100% certainty, which is great for human. That leaves a lot of space still for the human creativity in the future as well.
And anxiety. At the same time, because right, I mean, I think if you get to a point where there's 100% certainty, then there's no anxiety because you already know, like you said, it's kind of like closed.
Yeah.
You see the four corners of that box. But once you're talking about going outside those borders, then it's like that creativity is all going outside those borders.
Real quick. Art is subjective, right? All art is subjective, right? So, can you write the perfect hit song? You've seen people that say the formula for a perfect hit song is, this song or that song, but then you ask 100 people if they actually even like that song. And you'll get 20 to 30 people that tell you they don't like that song, right? You're gonna write the perfect movie, you can name your favorite movie, all four of us stand, and I'm sure there'll be somebody in the room that will say, I hate that movie, right? So, that's a big part of it too, is that what we're not talking about, which is on the receiving end, on the consumption end, we're all human beings. And we all have likes and dislikes and everything like that. So they'll try to, work an algorithm and do whatever the hell they're going to do. And like I said, I know a little bit more about how the sausage is made with, some of these platforms than others, because I have people that are friends that work at them. But they tried, and it isn't a home run. It's, it doesn't work all the time. It's one of the reasons why I think Netflix made like 70-something movies last year. How many of them did you even know? Never mind see, actually know were on the platform. Because not only was it an algorithm that kind of got them to the content that they wanted to get to, but then it's an algorithm that feeds it to you. And if it doesn't fit your algorithm when you watch, you're not going to see it either. So I can't tell you how many friends are like, I had a phone with Netflix last year. I'm like, where? I had no idea. I have to go like 17 letters deep in my search to find it. It's crazy, okay? But that's why I'm saying the panic is a little overblown, especially when it comes to art. And it's not a closed system. As these guys eloquently said, it's not.
All right. Any last questions lurking out there before we wrap it up?
Is this going to overrun SEO? Like,
Oh, it's
Search engine
everything
optimization.
faster now?
That's one thing it's useful for. That would be another use case. It would be fantastic for those kind of things. If you're working in that space, yeah, it's already in that space. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Hi.
Let me give you a microphone.
You.
Christopher.
Good job, man. That's a good job. I'm on track.
Hi.
Thank you.
So I'm working on a bunch of different projects, and one of them is I'm just wondering what's like the best, because I took a class on like AI and stuff, and what would be the best thing like for two different things for graphics, like which is the best program to do that? Is it Chat? I think there's
There's Bard, there's Yama, and then there's also ChatGPT.
Mid-journey.
For
No,
graphics.
Midjourney.
Midjourney.
It's also for like animation.
Yeah.
Animation, because I'm doing a documentary also, and I wanted to like tell the backstory with it. Would Midjourney be able to do that? Maybe?
It depends on what you're trying to do with it, if that makes sense. If you're trying to sort of generate animation from scratch, probably not.
Or different pictures.
Yes, but that's not Midjourney. There's a tool that's in beta right now that will take any moving image and animate it for you, including moves that aren't in the moving image. I can't remember the name of the company. Oh well, sorry company. But it's out there. Google it. It's happening.
But Google itself has as well.
And Google. Oh, there you go.
So like, because like mine is historic. It's the historical part. So would it be? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
I'm an actress and I know how to use them. So would it be? So would you be able to take something from a picture, of just a still picture, and make it into an animation?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think there's plenty of tools that'll do that. I don't even think you necessarily need AI for that at this point. You can plug that into something. Final Cut won't do it, but there's a couple of other tools that are out there that I think will do that already. But what I'm talking about is taking AI starts to come into an equation when it needs to generate content that isn't there already, if that makes sense. So if you're taking the still image, what you could do, I suppose, is you could feed it into Midjourney and be like, take this image, and I want a 3/4 profile, I want one from a bird's eye view, I want it from the back, and I want this and I want that. And whatever that sequence of images is, you could go to a different AI that actually stitches that together for you, if that makes sense. Or even better is, whatever, sorry, that's not accurate. If you have some historical footage that's like grainy and really tough to deal with, it's not going to fit you. I can't believe I said the word codec. I hate my life. Okay, I hate that I know about these things. It's not going to fit whatever resolution you've got, and you want to turn that into animation. And also, you want it cuts off too soon because you want the character to keep going to the saloon. Whatever, the AI tool will generate an animation based on that original piece of footage. Sorry, company. I really wish I knew what the name of the company was. Sorry about that. But that's unfortunate.
That's great.
Any final thoughts, guys?
Yeah, just if I can, yeah.
There you go.
I want to be very explicit here. I am an idiot. I am not a smart man. I'm not even supposed to be on this panel. I do. It's coming from this man. I'm not even supposed to be on this panel talking about AI. I'm supposed to be here talking about XR and VR and sort of new storytelling forms, which we're going to get to, which is fine. And this is the level that I've gotten to, all right? Just being sort of around. I promise this isn't hard stuff to like get inside of if you just pay attention. This man's forgotten more about AI than I. I don't belong on this panel with this man. Let me be very clear about this, right? Or probably this one, okay? You can do this. This is not, if we get past the fear, it's not tough information to gather, I promise.
I just saw another use case.
Boom.
I love it.
Yeah, no, because on stage 32 now, when you get onboarded, what we learned over the last 12 years is that a lot of people have a hard time writing bios about themselves. Really interesting. And they skip the bio part, and you're on a networking site. So of course you don't want to be skipping the bio part. You want people to know what you're doing. You're on a professional networking site. You want people to know why you're there and what you're looking to accomplish. We actually implemented ChatGPT type program into the onboarding so that you can just put in pieces of things that you've done and it will spit out a bio for you because people just have a hard time writing. So again, that's a segue into, instead of having the fear, like Chris was saying, think about, what does this mean? You want me to steal their base? That would be just good for me. Think about the things that you're deficient in. Think about the things that you don't do well. Like people that don't write bios well. Think about what you do writing-wise. Like I said, I have a hard time taking a full script and writing a one-page synopsis. Take that and utilize it, okay, and embrace the technology. And I guarantee you, when you start using it and you start getting results that you like, and it does save you time, or you can put together a lookbook like that as opposed to having to farm it out and wait a month for it to come back and have to go through, many drafts you gotta go through, right? These are the things that are gonna make your life a hell of a lot easier over time. The rest of it, the protection of your work, which I know you're all worried about, that's the stuff that's gonna come out in the wash. And like I said, we're gonna have a really good idea within 6 weeks. We will. But it will get settled. It has to get settled. Legally it has to get settled. So embrace, put away the fear, have a cocktail.
And final thoughts from you two. What does Stage 32 mean to you?
Oh, wow.
For those people who don't know about Stage 32, what has it meant to you and how has it been relevant for you?
Wow. Okay. I was thinking about something else and then see, I told you I'm an idiot. Stage 32 came into my life around, actually I think I joined like in 2016. When did you start?
2011.
5 years, okay.
That's when I joined. I told you about it.
You probably did. Alex, everybody. Also Stage 32 teacher. So at 16 I completely underutilized the site, but then a little thing called 2020 happened. And I had time to think about other things. And one of the things that I started thinking about was Stage 32 and the writer's room. I hadn't just started, but it sort of got supercharged. So I jumped in there and honestly had some of the best meetings of my life. The access that Stage 32 afforded me as an independent content creator has been fantastic to sharpen my pitching skills, blah, blah, blah. You believe it or not, I need to learn how to talk and pitch and things like that. So it's been super great. And once I started to embrace a lot of the immersive stuff, it was definitely the first platform I thought of to go to try to share that information. And I was lucky enough that they, I tricked them, magic trick, and they let me do stuff on the Metaverse and stuff.
So now also scared that actually we will lose our advantage, but not to lose that you have opportunity to learn. I think Stage 32 is great that they have many experts to give education on over many different topics. So yeah, thank you.
Excellent. So thank you very much to my panelists. I really want to, me personally speaking, being a moderator of this panel is fantastic with the CEO of the company. Who's also a great friend, and so these relationships are all basically cultivated through other people that you have been able to meet. So I want to thank Stage 32 for bringing me on as a moderator. It's meant a lot to me to be also a contributing person on the education part. So with that, I'd like to thank you guys, Christopher and Sami, and also RB for this wonderful panel. And guys, I appreciate the fact that you sat through this for an hour and a half. It's amazing. I think that's a wrap.
Again?
Thanks, everybody. If we can get everybody to clear the space, we're going to stack up all these chairs so we have more room in here, and then we're going to open